consequences of climate change are affecting millions of people across the planet.
Cities worldwide are going to become uninhabitable.
Extreme E is an all-electric off-road racing series with a purpose, raising awareness of the devastating effect climate change is having on our planet. In fully electric off-road SUVs.
In climate change, there cannot be one winner. Everyone needs to win, or we all lose.
Racing in some of the most remote and damaged areas on Earth.
We're really seeing what the issues are, but then importantly what we can do to help be part of the solution, making this world better for the future as well.
To tackle these demanding locations requires one of the most robust racing cars ever built. The Odyssey 21.
To have immediate power when you touch the throttle pedal, it's proper exciting to drive.
The extreme side and the actual racing coming together, it's going to take it by storm.
With some of the biggest names in motorsport behind the wheel and a 50-50 split male and female driver lineup, teams will go wheel to wheel on the most extreme terrains, in the most extreme temperatures, driving the most extreme vehicle. Backed by a team of industry-leading scientists to guarantee we not only race without a trace, but we leave a lasting legacy at every location.
Wouldn't it be great to be a part of something that really does make a difference?
This is fierce and exciting racing with the future of our planet at its heart. This is the greatest adventure of our time. This is Extreme E.
Bem-vindo, Ali, a M Future, o primeiro evento do Minding Up. Welcome, Ali.
Thanks very much.
It's a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you very much for taking time to share with us a little bit about the future of motorsport. You are Chief Marketing Officer of Extreme E. Can you please briefly introduce yourself and tell us what Extreme E is all about?
Yeah, so I've been involved in sports, whether it's been football, whether it's been rugby, Olympic sports, and now motorsports. And I think the really interesting thing about sport is that bringing together people. And if you think about Brazil winning the World Cup, how it brings people together, and you know they're all on the same journey. And ultimately, the embryo of our idea is to use sport as the catalyst for positive change. So we don't race on racetracks like Formula One in the middle of Sao Paulo. What we race at these locations around the world that have been damaged by climate change. And we highlight climate change, but through sport and through the optimism of how do we use technology and how do we use business to help to fight back and to reclaim our planet in a more equal basis. So it's a zero emission racing series. It's SUV cars. We have teams with Lewis Hamilton, Jenson Button, Nico Rosberg from the world of motorsports. We have Carlos Sainz, we have Sebastian Loeb, we have McLaren. So a lot of Formula One, a lot of Dakar, a lot of World Rally. It's bringing the whole community together. And I call it our version of the Marvel films. So Avengers Assembled. It's bringing the best of motorsport together to race 5 times a year across the planet and to highlight deforestation, desertification, melting ice caps, melting ice, the glaciers, and also the rising sea levels. So it's a really new concept. We're 3 years into it. And I'm absolutely thrilled to be able to speak at this conference because we have the aspiration to race in Brazil. And we feel that the Amazon is the lungs of the planet. And what we want to do is to tell a really positive story in terms of the fight back and what is being done.
I think it's that's what caught our attention, because you know that this event is related to the possible futures, and what we relate it to in the extreme concept and what you guys are doing is very much how to use changes, how to use technologies to promote a positive perspective around it, where things are not done and you can cast the attention of people by doing these kind of races. I know that you have a race coming in soon, if I'm correct.
Yeah, we are actually racing in an old coal mine in Scotland. So I'm a bit biased because I'm Scottish, but it's a fossil fuel which is being phased out. And so ultimately it's an open cast mine. And what's really nice about this racing proposition is about telling positive stories. And what we're telling is this whole area of Scotland, which was devoted to coal mining, for close to a century, has gone through regenerations. It's about communities adapting. And what's happening now is there's a move to renewable energy. And what that means is windmills in Scotland, because it's not like Brazil where the sun shines the whole time. So they have a lot of wind energy, but the challenge is the grid can only take that wind energy at certain times. And when there's too much wind energy, they have to turn the windmills off, and there's ultimately an opportunity cost to that. So what we're involved with is a project which is going to create a hydro facility, and it's a pump storage facility where when there's lots of wind and the grid can't take the wind, then we're going to be pumping water into this old coal mine. And when there's no wind, we're going to be using the turbines to create energy. So it's effectively that storage ability for the whole community and for the grid. And that's one of the challenges with renewable energy is it's great when the sun is shining and it's great when the wind's blowing, but the challenge around it is how do you store it? What can you do? And so we've got a fully electric championship. We're devoted to finding zero carbon options for mobility, and 30% of global emissions are through mobility. So we have an electric championship at the moment, and we're launching a hydrogen championship next year. And so what we're using sports, and the big manufacturers in the world talk about 10 years of R&D is equivalent to 1 year of racing. So what we're looking to do is to speed up the R&D by using the competitive aspects of racing to create new technologies. And so we work with CBMM, and we work with Niobium, and we've built this into our chassis. So it's not a full replacement for steel. It's an additionality with steel, and it's stronger than steel. And the most important point is it's much lighter than steel. So what we've got is a much lighter and stronger chassis. Now, if you were to take that material and put it into, let's say, shipping containers, you would find that the carbon footprint of global shipping would go down over a period of time as it's adopted. But it has strength components and is much lighter. So quite often people think sustainability is going to be more expensive, and many times it's economically more realistic and more advantageous than you first see. And what drives you to that outcome is this working together between the private sector, the government, and companies like ourselves to find new technologies and ways to do things and move things forward.
That's what I wanted to go back to, because when I did my homework preparing for a talk, I saw that, yes, you are in your third year, but it's the fruit of a longer process. It's related to the UN in 2015 in the Paris Agreement, looking for options to reduce the carbon footprint of sport. And what I found interesting is the cooperation that you initiated. It's not just electric SUVs running, but you are doing a lot of projects related to research and development. You are doing a lot of projects with the local communities related to your impact. And that's what creates the possible future that you are related, because we all know that motorsport is, like you said, it's 1 year of racing is 10 years of research and development. And that's very interesting, as we're in a mining event, that we're not just looking at the top of the iceberg, which is the energy transition. You are looking at materials, you're looking much. Can you tell us a little bit, like you gave us the shipping example, can you tell us why, for instance, going to electric and hydrogen makes a difference?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because ultimately, as we develop the car manufacturing developments around the world, as we have mass EV adoption, it's chicken and egg. You can't create the car without the infrastructure. And so what we're looking to do is to help people to understand that that these cars can be really sexy, and that's the biggest thing we can do. And I mean, if you think about how compelling someone like Ayrton Senna was, not just within Brazil but globally as a superstar, it breaks down barriers, these key athletes, and these athletes driving these cars at the speeds that they drive them at, and the courses are just dramatic. It's Dakar meets National Geographic. So we have the sort of current perception is that EVs have a lack of performance. We're changing that sort of mindset, and then we're allowing manufacturers to test new battery components, new inverters, new drivetrains to improve efficiencies. And a very good example of this is when we started Formula E 10 years ago, and that was my previous project. It was an electric form of Formula One, essentially. And what we had was we had two cars, because one car and one battery wouldn't last the whole race. So in the middle of the race, driver A would get out of his car and get into his second car and go off and finish the race. In 3 years, we were able to get the regeneration and the battery technology to such a level that we could take away one car. Those are examples of how racing can react very, very quickly to challenges. And if you had waited for technology to catch up with racing, we'd probably be still waiting to launch a race series. But we launched one, and then it's iterations. We're improving the whole time. And I think your question was also about us as a championship, and how do we do things differently? And one of the things we knew is that Formula One has a big carbon footprint. Formula E has a small carbon footprint, but we wanted to reduce even further. So we worked with EY to understand all of all of our footprint really clearly. And this is what all businesses are doing. What is my carbon footprint of us operating? What is my supply chain? Even what is my customers? And what we found was 75% of our carbon footprint in Formula E was flying the cars from A to B. So we bought a ship, and we bought a ship called the Saint Helena, and it was used to take people from Cape Town to the island of Saint Helena in the middle of the South Atlantic. And when they were able to build an airport, they didn't need the ship. And so we've got a half cargo, half passenger ship that carries all of our equipment, all of our cars around the world, so we can reduce our carbon footprint. Now, we still have a carbon footprint, and we're very honest about it and very transparent. But what we do every year is find ways to reduce it. And if we can do this in the middle of nowhere, then it gives people hope and aspiration that they can do it in London, Paris, Sao Paulo, Mexico City, LA. It can be done. And at the moment, we've increased our power needs on site because, of course, this is more popular, more television cameras, more reporters, more corporate guests come to these events. So our power needs have tripled, yet our actual reduction in power has gone down by around about 50%. And that's using recycled batteries, that's using solar, that's using wind, that's using green hydrogen, all as power sources to reduce our footprint and our needs. So we don't, because of we're using recycled batteries, we don't need to keep generators on and wasting fuel.
That's very impressive. That's very impressive because, like you said, this is not just a positive message. It's leading by example. You're actually providing solutions. And as our time is coming out, I would like to ask you, do you have a message to bring to all the people participating to this event that are focused in the mining industry? You talked about the initiative that you have with CBMM, with others. What would be the message that you would leave with all the people participating?
Yeah, I think first of all, we want to work with the mining community, and mining is essential to get the raw materials and the metals that are needed for electrification. So whether that's lithium, whether it's cobalt, whether it's copper, these are really important components for electrification. And mining is absolutely essential. And mining is going on its own journey in terms of sustainability. And we've worked with Antofagasta Minerals. We've raced in the middle of the Atacama Desert at a mine. And what we've been able to do is demonstrate how the mining industry is moving towards zero carbon. What are they doing to become more sustainable? It's not easy because it requires very big machinery, lots of power outputs, and mining companies are at the forefront for breaking down some of the barriers and actually becoming more sustainable. Yet there's a failure to communicate the story. And so we as a media platform want to communicate stories, positive stories about positive changes. So we want to work with the mining community. We think the mining community is vital for the electrification in the future. And we would like to talk to people about, is there an opportunity to race in a mining community? Is there an opportunity to bring, very futuristic technologies for life after mining? What are the sort of things we can do around STEM, science, technology, engineering, and maths, and inspiring the next generation? So we have a lot of positive stories, and we're very, very open to work like we do with Niobium and CBMM, or work like we do with Antofagasta Minerals. There's opportunities to work in collaboration.
That's why I thank you very kindly for your time. It was a pleasure to have you with us, Ali. I think you're part of a journey that involves everybody. The event is a starting event, so maybe we will get in contact again later, as we're going to do some labs and other things in order to get more practical, as you have a solution that makes a lot of sense for some of our partners and some of our members. So in the name of the Mining Hub in Belo Horizonte, Brazil, I thank you very much. We hope to have you guys in Brazil someday soon, and it has been a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Javier. Thank you for the opportunity.
My pleasure.